uh, to the webinar. Um, Now let's move into the next segment. I just wanted to ask from the audience today, how many of you are new to WhatsApp chatbot? If you can just type in the chat window, yes, if you are new, that would be great. Okay, I can see some yeses. Okay, okay. I'm sure you would have maybe interacted with a chatbot on WhatsApp before, maybe while booking an airline or maybe through a customer care for an e-commerce website. So there the bots are present which just automatically sends information to you. Like for example, if you booked a flight, and then you would receive an automated message directly on your WhatsApp. So there's no person sitting at the back end and sending you a message saying this person has booked an airline, now let me just go and send the message. So that exactly what bots are. Okay. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about Glyphic now, which is the WhatsApp chatbot, which is used by organizations, NGOs here. So what Glyphic does is, basically Glyphic is an open source platform which helps any organization to launch a WhatsApp chatbot. It's a platform used by more than 150 plus organizations, and it covers multiple sectors. So basically, if you are looking to automate conversations, if you're looking to automate your programs, you can use Glyphic. Here are a list of a few partners here. You can see some familiar names. Yeah. Okay. So when I say WhatsApp chatbot, for a user, it's just a simple WhatsApp message. It is just a new number that is sending a WhatsApp message to them. But for an organization, it's a platform. Okay. So what you see here is a screenshot from the Glyphic platform, and this is what exactly you get when you basically log in onto the platform. On the right side, you see chats with different users, and if you click on any one of those, you can actually see the content of that chat. And there are other menu items available on the left side. The one of the most used places where you actually put the content and automate the conversation is this basically the flow builder. Okay, flow builder is actually a simple system that we've created which lets you automate your conversation. So if you look at the content here, you add the content, and it's just simple drag and drop of nodes that you do, and you create a conversation, automated conversation, which is linked to one keyword. So if a user clicks on that keyword, they can start a chat with they can start the chat with the chatbot. While also building a chatbot, you might want to test it, right? To see whether it is coming out well, whether the content is user friendly or not. For that, we have the preview tab here on the side. So whatever you're building, you can on the side keep on checking how's my content looking like, and if there's anything that you want to modify, you can go back in the content section and modify it. So that's how the platform is. It's quite intuitive, it's very easy to use, and we also provide a lot of training and support in helping you build the platform. Okay, so this question has been asked by so many people on the registration form, like how can WhatsApp be used for climate action. This slide might look a little text heavy, but I'm just going to talk in terms of like how organizations in the climate action space, in the space of agriculture, can use a WhatsApp chatbot. So the first thing first is it's an easy to use platform. So for a user, there's no platform, there's no extra setup needed, there is no extra app needed. They just get all the information at one place. All the farmers, community members receive everything at one place through WhatsApp. Okay. You can use a WhatsApp chatbot for field and data reporting. So basically, collect real time field data, crop status, weather impact, and water usage through conversations. You can also look at behavior change messaging, basically, deliver nudges, reminders, actionable tips on climate resilience, waste reduction, and more. Uh, Glyphic enables you to have conversations in regional language. So, all the major Indian languages that are enabled by Meta are on the platform. So, people in the remote areas can also have conversation, and you can keep it very. I mean, you can keep it very friendly for all the people who are in the remote areas. It's a two-way platform. So you might have seen platforms where it's just one-way communication, just sending bulk messages. But two-way communication is actually you're listening to your audience. They are sending you responses, and based on that, you can take action. So that is what it allows you for two-way advisory. Another thing is it allows you for alerts and early warning. So, like for example, you want to send farmer on what is the weather going to look like for next 7 days, right? And based on that, he can plan and prep things on his field. So you can send weather updates, pest warnings, disaster preparedness updates, or conversation alerts directly by WhatsApp. Okay, so yeah, so basically wherever whatever you see here, it's not limited to only these 5 6 pointers. The scope, the potential is immense. So wherever you see a scope of digitally interacting with your users, and you want to make it at scale, you can deploy Glyphic. Okay, I'm actually on the last slide, and I'll then hand it over to Thomas. So Glyphic is right for you if you're engaging with at least 300 plus people and you want to scale your program. It also involves, if your program involves regular touch point with the beneficiaries. So basically, multiple nudges, reminders sent over a period of time. Then it would make sense to move to a WhatsApp chatbot, because then automation can really help you. Your program involves activities like gathering feedback, and uh, basically that's something which is done at a regular in a regular period of time. So that's another thing that you should think about when you're thinking about a WhatsApp chatbot. And you should have a team member and funds to manage the platform. So someone should definitely look at spending time on building the chatbot and maintaining it. So yeah, so that is there on Glyphic. I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen. Okay, all right. I'll hand it over to Thomas. If you have any questions on the platform, we'll take it towards the end. Thomas, over to you.
Thanks, Neha. Could you help me with the presentation if you don't mind?
Mhm. Yeah, sure.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the kind introduction too. So as Sneha said, I'm an FCXO. I work with Project Tech for Dev, but as part of the FCXO program, I do work with a number of NGOs here in India and Africa now too. Shuja is based in Africa. I've been working with Seeds, which is an organization based out of Delhi for the past year and a half. Um, we can move to the first slide. So Seeds has been operating in the disaster space for the past 31 years plus. And they work with communities to enhance their resilience to disasters and especially climate impacted disasters, the frequency of which is growing year on year, and with it, the intensity of these disaster events are also growing. In fact, just in India alone, 300 million people plus, or 30 crore plus people are in the path of disaster right now as we speak. Seeds has identified 225 disaster hotspots that they work in. Um, they do this work in a number of ways. First, they actually do response and relief, so immediate needs of the community. And here, the needs are very important to how Seeds responds and provides relief to these communities that are affected by disaster. So they embed themselves within, sorry, if you could go back to the previous one. They embed themselves within these communities and then work hard on the response and required relief. They also work on the resilience of these communities long term, but again, um, partnering with the survivors of disaster to understand what long-term resilience looks like to them, right? They do work in the climate and environment space as well. A lot of this goes towards mitigating the overall impact of future disaster. And finally, they leverage tech and their strong partnerships at the local level through CSOs, um, through the government as well, starting from, on-ground personnel, as well as DDMOs, as well as state disaster management agencies, all the way up to the union level. And through this, they co-create solutions that can mitigate the impact of future disasters. We can move on. So if you look at it, there is the problem that Seeds has identified, a core problem that Seeds has identified over the past 30 years or so years, is that there's a huge gap between the actual losses and needs of a household that is impacted by especially climate related disasters to the kind of support that they eventually get from that. Um, so in one study, they found that in fact, the compensation that a household gets is actually only around 30% of what they actually require. And this is due to a number of reasons. It's not like compensation is not meeting the requirements. A lot of it is due to um, the following reasons, right? If we can move to the next slide. Um, so a lot of it is because there is this large data gap between the actual losses that a household faces and what is able to be extracted from a larger kind of higher level view, right? So the data that's eventually obtained by those who are providing relief and responding to disaster is not necessarily at a level granular enough and personalized enough to each household that it can address their needs. Um, there is also this lack of, a common registry where this information is compiled. So sometimes, specific relief providers, whether that's NGOs or CSOs on the ground, or even the government, don't have access to the entire gamut of information available, right? It's kind of appearing in silos. At the same time, the community themselves is not able to see that, look, our voices are being heard and our needs are being recognized in a central place. It's kind of, they give their report, but it's lost in their view, right? Not that it's lost to those who are seeking it, but in their view, they don't find that thread of connection. Finally, there's not enough of this loss data to bridge the actual losses. From the government side, or even the donor or agency side, CSOs, NGOs, and so on, these collecting this kind of data is super time consuming and quite expensive, right? There's also not sufficient connection between the current disaster and the previous disaster and the one before that, because disasters are cyclical. Sometimes the same households are affected by similar disasters year over year, right? And finally, because of that, there's this lack of a real-time kind of unified view of both where the disasters are as well as connecting to that to the actual losses faced by the community. So, as a solution to this, Seeds has envisioned uh, what if we can give the entire ecosystem, or the ecosystem is enabled by a unified kind of view of loss due to disaster that is sourced from the communities themselves, that is reporting of loss. And all of this information is kind of accumulated at a household level, aggregated at a household level in a kind of e-profile per household. And then through that, there is this integration of data that's available per household into this macro view of where each community has faced losses and what their needs to mitigate those losses are. And from the provider side, whether that's government or CSO or NGO and so on, or donors, they get this real-time kind of digitized loss database, which then gives them actionable insights of what they need to provide, right? And that kind of coalesces the entire ecosystem towards providing relief response, preparedness, long-term resilience, and so on to each and every community that is impacted by disaster. So to address this, one of the core challenges that Seeds identified there is, how do we get self-reporting to work, right? This is quite a new thing. So communities over time, what they're used to is, once they're affected by a disaster, an agency goes out to the community and does a rapid needs assessment, and then a little bit later does a post-disaster needs assessment. So that's what they're used to. People coming and telling them, okay, did you have losses here? Did you have losses here? Did you have losses here? Right? Instead of that, how do we flip that script and get people to report their own losses and needs? So first of all, self-reporting must be inclusive of all families, regardless of their digital access and literacy, right? Otherwise, we potentially are at risk of excluding those who are most vulnerable, right? Secondly, how do we build this awareness, trust, and therefore the ability to use self-reporting by the communities themselves? And thirdly, how do we incentivize people to actually report their losses? So to address the inclusivity aspect, um, what we have tried over the past year or so is making a enabling multimodal self-reporting. So that is, with those with high digital literacy and digital access can use WhatsApp. We use Glific as the platform there. Those with a slightly lower level of digital literacy, but they still have some kind of network connectivity, can use a phone. So IVRS is interactive voice response. They can dial a number and they can either through audio or through key presses communicate their losses. And then finally, for those with who neither have digital access nor literacy, field teams can go out and finally do that last mile kind of coverage, approach each household and collect their data, right? Um, we found that employing a high level of IEC, which is information, education, communication in these communities, was important in raising that awareness that self-reporting is available. And then finally, tying that to, if you self-report, you're likely to get your needs addressed more specifically according to what you need, right? So that awareness was also built, and that was also successful in the pilots that we've done. So the last pilot we did that ran to completion was after the impact of Cyclone Dana in Odisha and West Bengal. Um, this happened at the end of October 2024 and beginning of November of that same year. And sometimes this is classified as two separate disasters because the cyclone hits and then there's flooding after it, right? So it's two, sometimes seen as two distinct events. Anyway, so after that, we ran the intervention in December and then finally relief distribution in January of the next year. Through this process, we use these three modes to collect what the losses were, especially loss of livelihood and damage to shelter. Those were the two most important things that we were looking to address in terms of relief distribution. Yeah, we can move on. So here, I say this is the WhatsApp flow, but actually it was a unified flow across all three modes. So we divided into three sections of what information we actually need to provide a response, right? I see a question. I'll address this. I'll address it right after here. So first of all, at the high level, we want to know who are you, where are you, what is kind of a loose definition of your socioeconomic status, and kind of can you tell us a little bit more about your household, especially things like are there elderly people in your house? Are there infants in your house? Are there disabled people in your house? Because that impacts what kind of relief, immediate relief you need, right? What kind of immediate support you need. And then finally, on the impact side, can we look at just shelter and livelihood impact right now and then address granular concerns on a second round? Finally, to listen to the needs of the community, we ask a couple of open-ended questions that can be either through text response or through audio, what the household needs and what the feedback is on the support that they've received so far. I'll just quickly answer this question. How are self-reporting audiences assessed for their digital literacy and usage of digital platforms? Will any survey be done beforehand? We did not do it, but I'll address the how it's assessed in a later slide. So this is just a quick demo of the starting part of the flow. Sneha, if you could click, I think hopefully the video plays.
Okay.
And so it's a 5 to 6 minute um, conversation flow, but here we're just highlighting the first part, which is, first your language so that it's tuned to who you are, and then asking for some consent. Just a caveat, I read Hindi at like a first grade level, so if it's imprecise, forgive me. And then after consent, we ask the next question, who are you? It's really the head of your household's name. Um, and then specifics of where you are is what you'll see here. You'll see a question around which district are you in, and then which village, which pin code, and so on. One of the learnings that we had here is things like village, pin code are not necessarily one. Sometimes people just don't know which district and which village they're in. Second, the spellings of these are quite different sometimes, right? According to people's understanding. Many people don't know their PIN code. So here we keep it as kind of like you can say it to us or you can type it out. Don't select from a drop down. That was one huge learning here. In fact, in the earlier versions, it was very difficult to get data there, and people would just drop off if it's a list where there's no other option, right? Yeah. So it's quite a simple flow. And then, like I said, you can answer in either audio or text, or some of the questions were options as well. Over time, that became easier and easier for people to understand and for us to understand where the failures were occurring in our thinking as well. On the audio part, the kind of information that we got were snippets. Like you can see these snippets here. Sneha, if you can play one of them if you want. You can see information like, the road levels are not high enough. We need these raised because we can't get to work. These are questions that most of these flat survey forms after a disaster occurs won't have this information, right? they're not tuned to get these kind of specific feedback from the community, which is still really important because something like, our roads are not high enough, obviously can be actioned, right, by the right officials. So that was another huge learning where open-ended questions gives you a lot more rich community-specific information. We can move on.
I'll play the audio from
Sure.
this.
Sorry.
Yeah.
जीवन रक्षक दवाओं की आवश्यकता बाढ़ के समय दैनिक आवश्यकता के सामग्री उपलब्ध नहीं हो पाती है और आवागमन ठप हो जाने की वजह से कार्य भी प्रभावित होता है.
So these snippets, if you notice, they're actually from one of our pilots in UP, not the West Bengal one. That's why it's in Hindi. I thought that would be a little bit a wider audience. Yeah, we can move on. So this kind of addresses the question that's in the chat. We did this analysis was actually done post implementation, right? We did a independent kind of study on the respondents and how they felt responding to each of these modes, right? So high level, we saw that about 60% or so, 65% or so of households have enough digital literacy and access. That doesn't mean directly, so you can see this number 52%, but that is at the head of the household. But we saw that, there will be somebody at home, either a younger person at home, a younger brother, or a child that has a little bit more digital literacy. So that 65% comes at the household level, right? The ones with zero phone coverage is less than 5%. The ones with phone coverage but don't have data necessarily, those together is about 15%, right? And so this, by the way, was in the 24 Parganas in West Bengal, and this is post-disaster. So if you look at this, this is encouraging that it's only 15% that is not directly reachable by the one of these two scalable modes, right? So one of our core questions was, look, post-disaster assessments are time consuming and they're very people heavy, right? You have to have somebody going house to house. Can we scale this up and make this quicker by using digital channels? And it looks like there is a huge possibility for that to happen. So if we can just direct that 15% to be reached by the traditional channels and avail of this digital or IVR channels for the rest of it, then information is much quicker, right? And so that was a huge learning. I'm going to leave, I'll just leave that at that. Finally, the last part is we ran these pilots. We asked, for self-reporting from across 3,000 families in UP, in Assam, in West Bengal. And finally, in the West Bengal pilot that we did, we found that relief distribution timelines from data collection to relief distribution, actually the timeline reduced by about 90% because we were getting accurate data quicker, right? It's not just the data collection part, but it's accurate. And one of the comments from the relief distributors was that people seem to trust the relief that they got according to their needs much more, meaning the number of grievances from the community went down drastically. So again, that's a huge learning from this. The rest of it, obviously, there was faster data collection. Huge learning for WhatsApp was that 62% of the households that we interacted with in West Bengal reported using WhatsApp. It was by far the most popular, right?
इस सवारे जे मारी चा बनावी ने हां तेरी जने बनावी પણ એને સાથે ઉપાડી લેવાનું હા
And then finally, so the inclusivity question here was answered, right? Even those who did not have smartphones and with lower literacy levels were included, but those with amounted to about 62%. And that was hugely beneficial in terms of reduction of time taken to collect the information. So I'll stop there. I think that's the end of my spiel. Are we pausing for questions now or at the end, Sneha?
We can take one question if anyone has a question else after Praveen. If you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask.
Hi, I have
Okay,
a question here.
okay.
Hi.
Go
Hi, this
ahead,
is
Deepa.
Deepa here from Ra Foundation. Just wanted to check what kind of infrastructure would be required. So we are a very small NGO with a budget of less than 1 crore per year. What kind of infrastructure would be required, and would someone with a moderate understanding of tech, would that person be able to kind of put this together on our own?
I can answer the last part of the question, and Sneha, maybe you can answer the first part. So the last part, for seeds, actually, somebody, if you looked at the demo, it was somebody named Puneet. Puneet had no idea what Glific was before he implemented this. In fact, he just reached out to the Glific support channel on Discord and
I see.
figured it out himself. So it's fairly easy, and that was a learning for me as well, right? First-hand
Mm,
knowledge that it's quite easy to set up in terms of getting the flow started. Now,
right.
there are some infrastructure necessities that Sneha will tell you about.
Sure.
Deepa, on the basically, you talked about the scale. Even small scale organizations can use a WhatsApp chatbot. We have quite a few organizations who are using it. In terms of costing and all, I can share that with you over the email.
Yeah, I think more than the costing, I was looking for so this is entirely available on the cloud. Would I need one mobile account? So what kind of infrastructure and inputs that we as an NGO would have to put in? That's
Okay.
wanted to know.
So basically, bot would need just a phone number and a Facebook page to begin with. And your organization should be a registered organization so that you have the legal documents to begin with. So
Right.
just these three things.
Sure. Can I also ask a follow-up question? So,
Mhm.
it was very interesting, the whole conversational way through which the data gets collected. Is there a way to kind of download this data in the form of a data dump, an Excel sheet or something like that? Otherwise, it's looks quite a task to catalog all the responses that we are getting. So how would we do that? Is there a way to do that as well?
So you can get the data either on Google Sheets, that's possible. You can even get it on, you can set up a data dashboard uh, through which you can basically see the data.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Shweta, I'll take your questions after Praveen. Um, and yeah,
Go up to what the previous question was.
okay, sure, go ahead then.
So, all this, is this a hosted service? Is what I was going to ask. Like, is it a SaaS based? So, all the information which is coming in will be on your servers, and then when we need, you download. We buy subscription, is it?
Yes, it's a SaaS platform. For data, you set up your GCS platform. So basically, the data and everything goes into the GCS account. So that's something that is you basically set up everything there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Thomas. Over to you, Praveen, to take this forward.
Sure, Sneh. Yeah, thank you. Let me share my screen. You can able to see my screen, right?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Yeah. So as Shweta Sneha introduced. So I'm Praveen from Farmers for Forest. So what we do at Farmers for Forest and how we are using the Glific for WhatsApp chatbot that we'll see. Let's start from the problem that we are solving. So as Thomas also mentioned that how climate change is affecting to the people from rural areas. So our use case is more specific to the farmers. So climate-induced extreme weather events like drought and floods are much affecting, and they are most more affecting to the small and marginal farmers. These are 60% of the population in the India. Most of these farmers they have the primary occupation or the primary income source as the farming. So this is big livelihood issue for all of these farmers. So traditional agriculture likes what are the crops they are growing, which are much sensitive to the climate change. This includes the maize, pulses, and other crops they are currently growing. On the other side, agroforestry or the biodiverse agroforestry plantation is much more climate resilient. This also helps to increase their income. In many cases, there are this is helping farmers to increase the income two to three times. Other than the income and the livelihood perspective, the agroforestry plantation also helping to increase the green cover, increase the biodiversity, and also increasing the carbon sequestration. So we at Farmers for Forest, we are working with the communities to plant the tree, protect them, and connecting this to the carbon market. We are using the AI-based drone technology for the effective monitoring of this plantation. This is helping to increase the transparency in the carbon market. As results of this, so produce from the fruit trees and revenue from the carbon credits, so farmers are able to increase their income up to 2 to 3 times. This income is slightly quite stable compared to the previous income. So this is helping farmers to become climate resilient. So the question is how we are using the WhatsApp chatbot. So let's start with the need of the WhatsApp chatbot. So our agroforestry process starts from the farmer outreach. So our field team do the farmer outreach by conducting the community meetings. We have social media channels, so farmers are connecting to all of the social media channels. So farmer gets to know about the program either from the community meetings or the social media channels, but it's just an initial understanding of the program or initial just that farmers for forest is doing something like this. But the next step is they have multiple questions from that, and again the next will be the enrollment for that. So after the outreach they either call to the call center or some of the field team member to get answer to these questions. Second is that our field team or the some field executive visits the farmer land, checks the land, and do the formal onboarding process with some documentation and all of the processes that we do. And then we distribute the saplings and the drip material, and then the farmer do the tree plantation. So in all of this process, so whenever we do the onboarding or whenever the farmer get to know about our program, so they have basically multiple questions on exactly what is the program, how we are doing plantation, which trees you are planting. And farmer used to call to the call center. So as a result of this campaigning, we used to receive up to 80-90 calls per day. It was quite difficult to manage all of these calls, and some calls quite unanswered. So this was the main challenge that we were facing. So I think our use case is quite simple. So we'll see that how we have resolved this. So we analyze the what are the types of questions that farmer are asking or what are the reasons. So one is they are they have some questions or they want to some clarity on the program. Second is that they have some specific questions, and third is that they want to enroll in the program. So based on these questions that we have, and we also as our most of the audience is farmers from Maharashtra and other states, so we have used the three languages Marathi, Hindi, and English, and these four functionalities that we have added. So one is that so it can able to provide the information related to the program in their language. Second is that we have prepared the list of the frequently asked questions which farmer generally ask, and this list can farmer can able to see in their local language. Farmer can able to enroll to the program. The enrollment was previously happened either via call center or with the field team member, but now they have started enrolling to the program by themselves. And if farmers have any complaint related to program or anything, any grievances, they can report via the chatbot. So these are the 4 screenshots or the 4 different functionalities. So in the information, so we are providing the video and the description in the language that farmer is selecting. If they have any specific questions, these questions we are covering in the FAQ sections. So FAQ sections, there are 15-20 frequently asked questions, and again these are in the local languages. So here I have added the screenshots in English just to make it easier to understand, but this is available in the Marathi and Hindi as well, and they can enroll it themselves. So in the enrolling, they can enter their name, their contact number, their address or the location, how much area they have, how much area they want to do the plantation, which trees they want to do the plantation. So all of these questions previously our field team used to ask them and fill the form, but now farmers started themselves enrolling to the program. And last is that if they have any questions or if they have any grievances, they can report the grievances, and there can be different types of grievances like sapling, staff misconduct. So they can select this, and they can report their grievances. So in all of this process, if there is some description that farmer has sent through grievances and we are not clear, then call center calls to them and clarify with this. In terms of impact, so we have started this, the phase 1 is started in the May, and the phase 2 we are planning to start from this January. But in the phase 1 itself, in the 6 month, we received or more than 2000 farmers have contact to the chatbot. Around 325 farmers has enrolled via chatbot by entering the information. This is in terms of area, this is around 500 acres of the area, which is around 15 to 20% of the total plantation. This is quite good number comparing the, considering all of our scale in the, because in the field team there are 60-70 people, so combining that, the total plantation is around 3000 acre, but just via chatbot around 500 acres of enrollment we have received in just 6 months. I think another impact we can see that it is quite easier for farmer to access anytime 24/7. They can message and they can enroll. There is no any dependency on the team member. Previously, there was dependency on the field visits and also on the call center. This is quite decentralized for them, and also it increased the digital literacy and the empowerment to the farmer. In terms of the program or the process, the processes are exactly similar, but one thing is added that for any questions in terms of onboarding or anything related to program, farmer generally starts with the questioning to the chatbot, and if there is any unanswered questions, then and then only they call to the call center. This helps to reduce the unanswered calls, because of the call centers calls reduced to 15-20 up to 15-20 calls per day. In terms of next step, as I have mentioned, this is first step and this is quite simple use case. But there are some questions which are quite specific, which farmers has in terms of the carbon credit, in terms of some learning. So after plantation also, they have some questions like tree growth, trees are not growing, they have some pest attack. So some detailed technical related questions. So these are not currently included in the chatbot or this phase implementation. These are quite slightly specific to the use case. So this is the one thing that we are planning to add in the next phase, and this will be again in the local language and audio supporting. So they can ask question in the local language with the audio, and chatbot can answer that. The second use case is that we want to add the functionality of sending the bulk messages for the any updates or the some nudges that we can do, and some of the program updates. So this will increase the uh, engagement to the farmers. It will be also helpful for the farmer as well. And third is that, so for any data collection, so currently our field generally collects the data, even if there is monitoring data, survival data, anything. I think farmer can also help us on the collecting the monitoring data, because every day they are near to the field or on the field, so they, it will be quite easier for them to send the plot photo and the survival number. So it can increase the decentralized monitoring, and all of this will be linked to our operation management tool, so that it will be quite smoother for the large scale implementation. Yeah, I think that's about our use case. Thank you. We can definitely discuss if there are any related questions.
Thank you so much, Praveen. We can open up the floor for any questions um, that people have. Else I can just pull up one or two questions which are there from the registration form and I can share it. Um, yeah.
Hi Sneha. Hi, this is
Hello. Hey, Karthik.
Karthik from
Hi.
Selco Foundation.
Good.
I just had a question regarding how a bulk messages can be sent. I think in the first slide that you were mentioning, you said that messages can happen at scale. So as far as our understanding, we see that bulk messages happen only in communities, like channels that are created in WhatsApp, like all the people are there. So in the glyphic part, is there something similar to that, or something like we don't have to create or add everyone to the community and then we can still send bulk messages?
You can send bulk messages to all the contacts. I mean, you don't need to create communities or create or have them on WhatsApp groups. You can send them one on one through Glyphic. So that's something which is doable. The only thing is which Thomas also shared is having a consent from the user. So basically having consent from all the users and making sure that they're aware of your program and they know you
Mm-hmm.
is the key, but you can send messages to all of them basically.
Okay.
It's just that if you're sending a bulk message, there's something similar consent is required in this case as well, which is basically a message which is like a template message. You get it approved by Meta in advance through the platform. It's done through the platform itself, basically. But you can send it to all the users.
Okay, okay, sure. And if I'm understanding, the consent is also taken via WhatsApp messages itself, like sending, like, do you consent for
Yes.
taking?
So two
Okay.
things. One is you get a consent from Meta to send a bulk message to everyone. That template of the message, that's one. You get it approved from Meta. And once Meta approves it, you can send it to all the users. But in general, for all the user, you should have a consent from them that you are going to send messages through this chatbot number to all to them basically.
Okay, thank you.
नमस्ते, मैं शेखरू से विभीषण। मेरे को प्रवीण सर से क्वेश्चन है, पूछ सकता है?
बोलिए प्रवीण।
प्रवीण, प्रवीण सर,
यस यस, ये बोलिए ना। यस यस।
कि समझ के चलो इसमें चैलेंजेस क्या है कि फार्मर कुछ मिस्टेक इंफॉर्मेशन में कुछ गलतियां करे या कुछ उसको एडिट करने छोड़ता है क्या बाद में, या समझ के चलो कि किसी ने रॉन्ग इंफॉर्मेशन भर दिया, तो वो कैसा मैनेज करता है और उसमें क्या चैलेंजेस दिखता है आपको, स्पेशली फार्मर के साथ आप काम कर रहे हैं तो?
राइट, आई थिंक चैलेंजेस तो काफी आते हैं। तो हमने भी तीन चार टाइप के चैलेंजेस देखे थे। तो एक तो स्टार्टिंग ऑफ द मैसेजेस, तो हमने पहले क्या किया था कि एक फिक्स ऐसे कुछ कीवर्ड्स दिए थे, जैसे हाय हेलो करके स्टार्टिंग होगा, और उसमें भी फार्मर्स कुछ अलग वर्ड टाइप करते थे, उसमें भी इश्यूज आ रहे थे। बट अभी बाकी के कोई भी कीवर्ड फार्मर ने कोई भी मैसेज किया तो भी ये कन्वर्सेशन स्टार्ट होगा, उससे वो सॉल्व किया। सेकंड, पूरा एनरोलमेंट फॉर्म भरना भी काफी डिफिकल्ट होता था फार्मर के लिए। तो हमने क्या किया कि वीडियोस बनाए स्क्रीन रिकॉर्डिंग के, वो मराठी में या लोकल लैंग्वेज में बनाए और वो सर्कुलेट किया सोशल मीडिया से, उससे फार्मर को थोड़ा इजियर हो गया। और थर्ड, ये सब करके भी आई थिंक कुछ स्टिल थोड़े बहुत चैलेंजेस रहते हैं। बट एक डेटा क्लीनिंग टीम या जैसे कॉल सेंटर टीम है जो वो रेगुलरली चेक कर लेते हैं डेटा, तो थोड़ा बहुत तो इश्यूज रहते हैं डेटा में। और कुछ ज्यादा बड़े इश्यूज है तो वो फार्मर को कॉल कर लेते हैं, क्योंकि हमारे पास कॉन्टेक्ट नंबर तो रहता है उनका। तो ऐसे आई थिंक ये तीन स्ट्रेटेजी से हमने अभी तक के चैलेंजेस सॉल्व किए। बट हाँ, स्टार्टिंग में थोड़े
थैंक यू,
बहुत
थैंक यू,
चैलेंज।
थैंक यू।
Okay, Shweta,
Yeah,
please go
so
ahead.
thanks for giving me a chance. So, how does it compare with survey tools like your Google Forms or Survey CTO and things like that? How does it compare with that? Anybody can answer.
Thomas, you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so one thing that we saw again, people are not as familiar with inputting stuff in forms at a personal level. Survey forms are really good for when you have field teams go out and collect data. In fact, field teams prefer, obviously, the survey forms. They do not prefer inputting beneficiary data using WhatsApp. WhatsApp seems to be just that right balance of familiarity. People are familiar with that interface, plus it's conversational, plus it has that audio ability that is, again, easy to use and easy to find, right? Um, so I think all those three together is what made us see that kind of 60+% adoption of WhatsApp over the other two modes. Does that answer your question? If
Yes,
not,
absolutely.
Any other question?
Hi, Deepa. I just have like a programmatic question. Like this is, I think either Thomas or Praveen can answer this. So after the data collection is being done, and you say that the responses are available in the data dashboard, but are we getting any summary of the data to see what are the pain points or what are the broader points that we need to concentrate on, especially in case of Praveen's farmers to forest? Like a lot of farmers can be talking about their crops dying, something or very similar concept as that. But instead of going through all the responses, is the Glyphic also providing something like a report or a summary using Meta AI or something, so that they can get to know what are the major thematics or the major pain points that they can concentrate on and provide solutions?
Yeah. So maybe I can answer, and Thomas, you can also add here. So I think there are two types of responses. So one is for the all of the numerical responses. Glific provides a dashboard, like how many people has message, how many conversation are break, or how many people are able to complete the full conversation. So from that we also get some idea that if there is some people are breaking the conversation at some point, then we get an idea that there is something wrong in that question or something we need to improve. This is one part that we get dashboard. But there is other part like descriptive responses that farmer is giving. I think there we need to manually check as of now. There can be some way, but as of now we are manually checking the descriptive things.
yeah, I think there are a couple of tricks that you can use within Glyphic itself if these are categorical responses. Like if they're menu item choices, you can add them to certain groups, even within Glyphic, and then use that for summary reporting in your dashboard. But for stuff that's a little bit more unstructured, say we're collecting audio responses of, what is the kind of impact that I have as a household impacted by disaster, those will obviously be off platform. You have to build your own kind of analysis software on that. So extracting, say, common themes from voice responses, group all of these as household shelter damage, right? Or group all of these as agricultural losses. But from very unstructured, either text or audio data, that's not something that you can do on the Glyphic platform. You'll have to build that separately, right now at least. Build separate application software for that.
Got it.
And then
So
create a dashboard on top of that.
Yeah, done. Thanks for that. But also, if there's an audio response for a question, like if I ask a descriptive questions and there's an audio response from my user, will I also be able to see that in my dashboard, or will I get a transcribed version of the audio in the dashboard?
You can get both onto a Google Sheet basically, and onto your dashboard. So most of the people actually export it to a Google Sheet because they would want to see audio to text conversion as well, and also look at the audio again. So both can be done.
Oh, that makes sense. Thank you.
I have one question for both of you. If you can share, Thomas and Praveen, uh, based on your journey with Seeds and Farmers for Forest, if you can share one piece of advice for organizations that are thinking about WhatsApp chatbots. Thomas, you would like to go first?
Okay. I was waiting for Praveen.
Good. Yeah, anyone is okay. Praveen, if you want to go first, that's also
Yeah,
fine.
why don't you go first, Praveen? And
Praveen, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I think one thing is the clarity on the need might be one thing that we need to. So there can be some problem which can be addressed by some other solution. So we need to have clarity on the need or is it the WhatsApp chatbot is the right solution? This is one thing I will say. And another is the perspective of the user. So I think for all of the cases, so we can use the chatbot, but user should able to use it for all of the use case. I think for some data, it might be difficult for the user to fill it. So both these things I think are important.
Thank you, Praveen.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
For seeds, I think specifically because it's such a novel kind of concept and usage. I think for us, experimentation was super important. So be ready to, you know, learn as you go along, and therefore, on a technical kind of aspect, when you build your chatbot flows in Glyphic, Glyphic makes it really easy to kind of separate out specific parts of the flow. If you can think about, this is kind of like how I described, this is the basic information we need. This is the disaster-based information we need. This is the feedback-based information we need. Then you can kind of mix and match the flow as you learn about your community and how they like using WhatsApp. So that was a huge learning for us, and we continue to experiment with the flow. Yeah.
Thank you, Thomas. Yeah, I think multiple pilots, running smaller experiments and iterations is something that is key to implementing any kind of tech on your programs. So yeah, with that, we're at the end of the webinar today. If you have any more questions for Thomas and Praveen, uh, I would request Thomas and Praveen to just drop in their email address. People can directly reach out to you if they have a question. And if you're interested in Glyphic, I'm just going to drop a link here So if you're interested, you can sign up for a chat with us. Okay, Thomas and Praveen, thank you very much for being here today and sharing the work that you have done at Seeds and Farmers for Forest.
Thanks so much, Sneha. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you for organizing this.